Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Cow Chatter Podcast. Today, we got ourselves another video. As I said, I'm rolling out a bunch of these right now, right before the Hall of Fame game starts. So here we go. NFC East. Let's get this video started. First up, we have the defending NFC champions of the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I was filling this schedule out today because I actually hadn't really finished this entire thing yet. And man, their schedule is disgustingly brutal. So let's get this one started. Let's get going here. Up first, we have the New England Patriots on the road. A kind of not an easy game, really, even to start. Although it's still a game I think that the Eagles should win, but still not an easy first game, even not even really a really easy first game. Heading out to Gillette, take on the Patriots. Then they'll be at home against the Minnesota Vikings for another Week 2 game against them, as they played them Week 2 last year as well. Then they'll head out to Tampa to take on the Bucks, home to the Washington Commanders, then on the road to take on the LA Rams, and then things will get interesting. And then on the road take on the LA Rams, and then things are going to get really interesting for the Philadelphia Eagles as they'll head on the road to take on the New York Jets at MetLife before they'll be back at home to take on the Miami Dolphins, then at Washington on the road against the Commanders once again. And then we'll get the Dallas Cowboys at home right before the bye, and then listen to the rest of this. So you got the Jets, you got Miami. They're on the road against Washington. Then you got Dallas right before the bye. Look at what they have coming up after their bye. At Kansas City, home to Buffalo, home to San Francisco, at Dallas, at Seattle. Then they got home against the Giants, an easy game against the Cardinals, and then at on the road against once again the New York Giants. But at Kansas City, but Kansas City, Buffalo, San Fran, and two Dallas games around them. That is an brutal schedule, and then throw in a road game against Seattle, and then two more games still yet to come against the New York Giants. Who, yeah, the Giants aren't necessarily as good as Philly, but it's still the Giants who are a solid team. They're gonna compete for a playoff spot. Those aren't going to be easy games, but Kansas City, Buffalo, San Fran, all in a row with two Dallas games surrounding it. I mean, the one comes before the one is got a bye, but my goodness, that is a lot of brutal games all in a row. There, I'm just that is going to be uh, that's going to be disgusting for Philly. I honestly, I mean, that's some tough games, especially all of those in a row. That's some really tough games. But as for the schedule here, I'm sorry, not schedule. You look at the roster overall. Jalen Hurts, of course, the starting quarterback. I didn't even know, but apparently they signed Marcus Mariota. They have, of course, their new duo of running backs. Miles Sanders signed with the Carolina Panthers, so to replace them, they went ahead and got Rashad Penny in free agency and traded for DeAndre Swift. They also signed Trey Sermon from the San Fran Niners. That's a former Ohio State running back who transferred into Ohio State from Oklahoma. He's a decent running back. They still have Kenneth Gainwell as well. So, they have plenty of options at running back as they always seem to play several of them. Which they might actually need those options since Rashad Penny and DeAndre Swift both have large histories of constantly getting hurt. So they might need those other running backs to kind of step in. AJ Brown and Devontae Smith both once again will lead the receiving core with some other receivers also, factoring into that receiving core, but obviously it's really mostly A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, the 1-2 punch. Then you'll have, of course, Dallas Goedert as the tight end. Jason Kelsey remains the center, and they still have a lot of really good offensive linemen, so they should be more than fine on the offensive line. And the defense, you got Derek Barnett, Brandon Graham, Josh Sweat, Fletcher Cox, Jordan Davis. They stole Jalen Carter when they never should have even been able to get that guy. And you'll find a lot of Georgia defensive players on their defense now just because of how many players they're able to snag. They got Nakobe Dean, they got Nolan Smith, they got uh, so many playmakers on that defense. But Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis up the middle with Fletcher Cox is absurdly good. And then, like I said, Derek Barnett and Brandon Graham. You got Nakobe Dean and Nolan Smith. You got James Bradbury. You still have big play Slay in the secondary. They got both Keely Ringo and Eli Ricks. I mean, you just name it, they have it. They even have Terrell Edmonds. They also drafted Sidney Brown from Illinois. The amount of talent they have on the defense is absurd. This is a very good Eagles team. I think this is the best team in the NFC. And the only team I really think, well, there's only two teams that I really think are even comparable to the Philly Eagles. And they're both pretty close because they're both really good. But the only two teams I really think that are even close to the Eagles in talent level is the San Fran Niners first, and then the Dallas Cowboys. That's it. Everybody else in the NFC is, I mean, you got, I mean, so I just told you what I think the top teams are. So you got Eagles, Niners, Cowboys. They're all up. I'm trying to like, this is awkward to do. They're all up here. So they're all on this level, and then all the way down here is like the other playoff contenders, and then like off the list is that's all the crap teams. But this is a brutal schedule for the Eagles. This is a really good team. They do have a new running room, so whatever kinks in the armor that they need to, get out, anything they need to work out and fix, you might want to fix it during these 4 weeks here or against New England. You might want to get it done during these first 5 weeks of the year because that's probably your best chance to do it. Because once you get past those 5 weeks, you're not going to get many. You're not going to get many chances to catch your breath. Uh, it has such a nasty schedule for the Eagles. That is a lot of tough games. But it should be a really fun season. Should be really fun to watch the Eagles. They are such a good team, and yeah, they're gonna be dangerous. That I think that's a Super Bowl contender. I honestly think they could win the Super Bowl. I would not be surprised if they even won the Super Bowl, but they are definitely on that level. And now next we'll head over to the Dallas Cowboys, America's team. Whatever. America's team, of course, as everybody likes to say, but they actually have to win Super Bowls to be America's team. I'm sure every Dallas fan is going to absolutely kill me for saying that, but we'll start their schedule starts off with a road game against well, actually, their schedule starts against two New York teams, one on the road against their arch rivals of the New York Giants, and then they'll have the other New York team of the Jets of Aaron Rodgers at home at Jerry's World before they head out on the road to take on Arizona. Then they'll be back home to take on the New England Patriots, and then they get another one of their favorites of the San Fran 49ers on the road in San Francisco. And then they'll get two back-to-back LA teams, with one being on the road against the LA Chargers before a bye is in between the two. And then they get the other LA squad of the Rams at home. Then they get another personal favorite of theirs in the Philadelphia Eagles on the road before they get their other arch nemesis of the Giants at home. Carolina Panthers on the road, Washington at home on Thanksgiving Day. Seattle Seahawks at home, Eagles at home, a lot of home games there. Then you get the Bills and the Dolphins both on the road, the Lions at home, and then Washington on the road to finish off the season. This Dallas team is very, very good too. I think they might be slightly under the Niners and the Eagles, but this team is Dallas is really good too. That stretch here, by the way, is pretty nasty too. It's not Philly Eagle bad, but Seattle, Philly, Buffalo, Miami, Detroit is not fun either. Anyways, for the Dallas Cowboys, the roster, the starters look like they got Dak Prescott. They got, of course, Tony Pollard in the running room. Zeke Elliott is still a free agent, and I don't think they have any plans of re-signing him. So it's going to be Tony Pollard in the running room. CD Lamb leads the receiving corps with Brandon Cooks now joining the crew, along with, of course, still having Michael Gallup, and there's also Cavante Turpin, their return specialist. And then at tight end, they are kind of lacking a tight end after they lost not Dalton Kincaid. Uh, what's the guy's name who went to Houston? Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz went to that's kind of close. Dalton Schultz went to the Houston Texans, so they had to find somebody else, and they actually went ahead and got themselves a tight end from the Wolverines and Luke Schoonmaker. I think they say Schoonmaker now, but I like Schoonmaker better. That's what I've always said. Maybe I'm saying it wrong all this time, but I like Schoonmaker better. The offensive line for the Cowboys is solid, and then you go to the defense, and their defense is disgusting. They have Dante Fowler's actually on the team. I don't know if he's really going to start for them though. Demarcus Lawrence, of course, infamously, of course, now Mozzie Smith. This guy just made headlines recently due to some actually really funny lines they had, as I think it was like an interview or something, and he was talking about that he just didn't really talk when he was like on the line standing in front of somebody, and they're like, you talk a lot about hitting people, and he goes, yeah, I don't even like football, I just like hitting people. So I think Dallas is going to love that guy. Great with the Wolverines. I mean, he's 6'3", 337 pounds now. That just sounds like a lot of fat, but if you actually look at like a picture of that dude, it actually is legit all muscle. It is absurd how large that human being actually is. Now, he doesn't move really much either, but the guy is absolutely massive. So Mozzie Smith up the middle. Of course, they still have Micah Parsons, Leighton Vander Esch, Trayvon Diggs got re-signed for a long time, so they'll have him for a bit. They still have Jordan Lewis, Stephon Gilmore's in their secondary, Jaron Kearse, Malik Hooker. This is a really, really talented defense, and of course, everybody knows this team caused and wreaked havoc in terms of turnovers. They were turnover machines last year, and they will probably be that once again. And their offense is very good. This Dallas Cowboy team is very, very talented, and this team, I mean, they're America's team, and they continue to seemingly always fall short of a Super Bowl bid. And with the Eagles in their division, it won't make things easy. But This team is certainly going to the playoffs, whether that's winning the division or going to the wild card round. They'll be doing one of the two, and they will be wreaking havoc in the playoffs. They just all the Cowboys just need to do now is somehow avoid the San Fran Niners in the playoffs, so they don't have to do one of the most boneheaded playoff calls in all of history again. As much as I hate the San Fran Niners, I'm not a Cowboys fan either. So that really was an absolute. As much as I really hate because I'm a Seattle fan, I absolutely hate San Francisco. But watching those two plays in back-to-back years was that was still a riot. Even though I hated San Fran, that was still so stinking funny. Anyway, moving on to the next team, we have the New York Football Giants coming up here. So for the New York Giants, we will start their schedule with the home game against the Dallas Cowboys. That will be the very first Sunday night football game. So that should be a lot of fun to see. Then they'll head on the road to take on the Arizona Cardinals. As well as the San Fran 49ers for a Thursday night football game, if I'm not mistaken. Then they'll be at home to take on the Seattle Seahawks, on the road to take on both Miami and the Buffalo Bills in a battle for who's best in New York. Then they'll get the Washington Commanders at home before they get. I listed as a neutral site game, but it is going to be at MetLife. I think they list it as a home game for the Giants, but they both play in the same stadium, so it really doesn't matter. I mean, I just listed it as neutral site because, well, it's the same stadium for both teams, so it's like, yeah, it's both of their homes, so it's essentially a neutral site. But yeah, New York Jets, they'll get at MetLife, of course. And then they'll get three straight road games. Said that backwards. Three straight road games against the Vegas Raiders, Dallas Cowboys, and a second game against the Washington Commanders. Second game against Cowboys too. Um, and then they'll be at home against the New England Patriots before they get their bye, a late bye. And then we'll get the Green Bay Packers, New Orleans Saints, Philly Eagles twice, and then we'll get a game against the Rams sandwiched in between. This Giants team is not as good as Dallas or Philly, which makes it kind of difficult because they got to play both of those teams twice. But this team really, really lacked receivers last year, and Kenny Galladay was supposed to be their answer at a top receiver, and he did not become that, which really, really hurt the Giants pretty bad because they needed him to be good, and he was not at all. And so they really suffered because that was supposed to be their big time receiver, and he never panned out. But of course, their quarterback is Daniel Jones. Saquon Barkley is a little upset with the contract, but he's still the running back. And they actually do have James Robinson now too, so they have a little bit of some insurance. But in terms of the receiving core, it is a little bit messy. But Cole Beasley, Paris Campbell, Jamison Crowder, Wandale Robinson, Sterling Shepard are really and Darius Slayton, don't forget him. Those are, and Jalen Hyatt too. I forgot they drafted him. So that's probably Jalen Hyatt. You want him to do well for the Giants. Dwandale Robinson, their big, well, not he's the opposite of big. Their draft pick a couple years ago, need him to do well. So the receiving core is young, but someone needs to emerge as a top threat, as a top player. And as of right now, no one has really done that. And obviously that hurts. But to kind of take the pressure off the receiving core, they went ahead and got themselves a big-time tight end in terms of a trade, as they traded with the Raiders to get themselves Darren Waller, which is a really good tight end. So That is a awesome pickup if you're the New York Giants to get yourself a very good tight end. Of course, the offensive line has had its issues in the past. They have some very young bookends in Evan Neal and Andrew Thomas. The rest of the offensive line, kind of remains to be seen. You got some decent defensive players, guys like Leonard Williams, Dexter Lawrence, Ashawn Robinson actually is now with the Giants. Looks like. Of course, where is he from Oregon? They list him as a linebacker again. They do. Kayvon Thibodeau. They draft themselves a corner, of which they needed. They got Deontay Banks. They have a Dory Jackson as well. Don't really think he did anything for him though. Um, Overall, the defense is a little it has a little bit of some holes, which certainly will need to be patched pretty soon here. But the Giants overall have a solid team. They should be in the mix for a wild card spot. I don't think this is a they'll be in the mix for a wild card spot, but really, other than that, I don't really think the Giants have that much more in them. They're a solid team, and I think 9-8, 10-7 might be pushing it a little bit, but 9-8, I think would be fair for this team. Uh, they'll have a good season, and yeah, we'll have to go from there. Overall, Giants though, solid squad. And then last here we have the Washington Football Commanders. Why'd I say Football Commanders? I still got Washington Football Team in my mind because they took them forever to get a name. Still nobody likes the Commander name either, but really, Washington, it doesn't even matter what their roster is. It doesn't even matter if they lose a bunch of games this year. There's only one thing that people in Washington care about, and that is the fact that owner Dan Snyder is officially gone, and they finally have a legitimate owner owning their franchise. Everybody who is a Washington fan is so stinking happy right now. They are in love with the fact that he is gone. Now they can hopefully eventually get a brand new stadium so they can get out of the dump known as FedEx Field and maybe get a good team, because Washington, D.C., you'd think people would want to play in the nation's capital, but with the team being in a dump of a stadium, with the uh, with the state of the team itself, obviously people are not really all that intrigued. Anyway, let's just get the schedule going here. I'm not going to go too much over their roster or really even their schedule. First, they have Arizona at home to start off the year. That should be an easy, nice win to start off the season. Then they'll head on the road to take on Denver, home to the Bills, on the road against the Eagles, then at home to the Chicago Bears, on the road against both the Atlanta Falcons and New York Giants. Then they'll be back at home against the Philadelphia Eagles for a second time. Then we'll get the New England Patriots, the Seattle Seahawks, both on the road. Giants at home for a second game. Then you'll get the Dallas Cowboys on the road for Thanksgiving Day. Miami Dolphins at home before they get the very late bye. And then we'll have the LA Rams on the road, Jets on the road, San Fran Niners at home, and then the Dallas Cowboys at home as well to finish off the season. Washington's expected quarterback to start the year is going to be none other than Sam Howell. He was obviously pretty good with North Carolina. We'll see if he does well for Washington. They actually have both Jacoby Brissett and Jake Fromm as well on the roster. So in case something with Sam Howell doesn't go well, they do have Brissett. Uh, they have Antonio Gibson in the running room, along with Brian Robinson, of course. They have a lot of different running backs in there. It could be anybody. In the receiving room, you got Jahan Dotson as well as Terry McLaurin, also Curtis Samuel. Tight end room, Logan Thomas is the guy. Decent offensive line. I don't really know anything about their offensive line, if I'm being honest. Uh, and as for the defense, they have, obviously a couple good players here and there, such as like Jonathan Allen, Chase Young, Joshua Pryor, Montez Sweat. Deron Payne is really good, of course, as well. Um, there's solid players everywhere, all around. Um, but this team still, though, it's not great. The defense, while it has some nice players, being in the division that they are, getting stuck with playing some of the teams of which they are, they're gonna have a tough time really rattling wins off. Um, and also, I mean, their team is just, I think, gonna have a massive culture change due to the fact that Dan Snyder is gone. But I think it's still gonna take some time for this team to really get in rhythm, for this team to really start succeeding. I think it'll happen sooner rather than later, but as of right now, I think that they're still going to need time before, we can really think about Super Bowls in Washington once again. So that is it for this video. I only have one more left to do. Only one more, surprisingly. Only one more left. It feels like it's been way too long, but that's all I got. So let's get that one going here in a minute here. But other than that, that's it for this video. So I hope I'll see you on the next one. Until next time, adios, everybody.